Good morning, kiddos. One last story about Thanksgiving because tomorrow is Thanksgiving. This is called What is Thanksgiving Day? And we're going to find out. Even though we've talked about it before, we're going to talk about it again. Ben, called Amy. Please come in and help me. What's Ben dressed as? Yep, a Native American or an Indian. I wonder what she wants help with. Hold on. There we go. Amy, can't you see I'm busy? Please, Ben. I want to make some cookies for Thanksgiving Day. What is Thanksgiving Day? He doesn't know what Thanksgiving Day is. And he's dressed like a Native American. He should know. It's when the Indians brought food for the Pilgrims. What's a pilgrim? Asked Ben. You guys remember what a pilgrim is? Well, hi there, a pilgrim. A pilgrim is a person who came from England. Remember, on the Mayflower. Here, she's going to explain it. There they are. There's the Pilgrims. Pilgrims were people who left England so they would be free to worship God in the way that they wanted. And there it is. What's that ship called? The Mayflower. Their ship was called the Mayflower. It carried 102 people from England to America in the year 1620. Long time ago. Oh, look at that ship ride. Remember we talked about how the people got sick on the ship and it was a terrible journey and they could have died, but they made it. Where is England? Asked Ben. It is far across the ocean, said Amy. Remember we looked at the map? For such a long trip, each person or each family could take only their Bible, a chest for clothing, pots and pans for cooking, tools for building, and guns for hunting. So they weren't allowed to bring everything with them, just the necessities. Amy continued, at night, some families had to sleep on the back of the ship. I bet they were cold. Maybe it rained, that'd be yucky. What did they eat? Asked Ben. For 2 months, they ate the same thing day after day, said Amy. Salted beef or pork, fish caught from the ocean. Okay, so they had to eat dried up meat, fish from the ocean, dried peas and beans, cheese, butter, and hardtack. Hardtack? Asked Ben. It was a hard, dry biscuit made of flour and water, explained Amy. Remember we talked about that? And I said sometimes they got bugs in them and they still had to eat them because they were so hungry. The only way food could be cooked was in metal boxes. But most of the time, the Pilgrims ate cold food. Many people were sick during the trip. I think I would probably have gotten sick. Did they land safely? Asked Ben. Yes, said Amy. On December 16th, 1620, the Mayflower dropped anchor at what we now call Provincetown. Provincetown is up in Massachusetts. You can visit there, and you can see Plymouth Rock, too. But that's not in Provincetown. Plymouth Rock isn't in Provincetown. When the Pilgrims got off the ship, the first thing they did was to thank God for their safe journey. After that, the Pilgrims looked for a place to live. When they found a place, they called it Plymouth. Okay, so they left with Provincetown and they went to a place called Plymouth. Look at him, he's using an axe. Think Ben can really use an axe? I doubt it. The Pilgrims chopped down trees, trimmed them to make logs, and built a common house. Common house? Asked Ben. What's that? It was a large building that housed all the Pilgrims, that housed the men who worked and gave them a place to keep their tools. All right, so they started by building just one big house so that they would be out of the elements, the rain and the snow. Probably was snowy in December. Later, it was used as a church and a hospital. The Pilgrims worked very hard all winter. Then in spring, they met their first Indian friends. See? One of the first Indians that they met was named Squanto. They're Native Americans, Squanto. Squanto showed the Pilgrims new ways to fish and how to find wild plants that were good to eat. He also showed them how to plant corn. He planted the corn kernels in a little hill where he buried 3 dead fish. As the fish decayed, they became fertilizer and made the corn grow. That spring, on April 5th, 1621, the Mayflower sailed back to England, leaving the Pilgrims behind in America. The Pilgrims liked their new land. They built houses, worked in their gardens, and hunted for food. They had to start from scratch. There was nothing here. In the summer, the corn grew tall and there was plenty of food to eat. The Pilgrims knew that if they were careful, no one would go hungry that winter. The Pilgrims had much to be thankful for. The Indians had become their friends and they had plenty of food. See, that's a lot to be thankful for. But best of all, they had found a place to live where they could worship God in their own way. They could go to whatever church they wanted. The Pilgrims decided to give thanks. They set a time when no one had to work, which they called Thanksgiving. The Pilgrims especially wanted to thank the Indians for their help, so they asked them to come to their Thanksgiving celebration. The first Thanksgiving lasted 3 days. All the Pilgrim families and their Indian friends came. So the Native Americans and the Pilgrims got together, and look, they had so much fun. Everyone brought something. The Pilgrim men brought ducks, geese, and fish. The Indians brought wild turkey, deer meat, and cookies, said Amy. The women served the meals with bread, nuts, and vegetables. Everyone ate outside on big tables. After dinner, the Pilgrims and Indians played games and had contests to see who could run the fastest, throw the farthest, or shoot an arrow the straightest. See that? They're shooting arrows. Remember what this is called? A bow, yep, and an arrow. Bow and arrow. But most of the time at the celebration was spent giving thanks for the new land and new friends. Amy's story was almost finished. She drew a deep breath. So you see, Thanksgiving was a time for eating, playing, and sharing, but most of all, it was a time to give thanks. Ben was sorry that the story had ended. Amy, he said, that was a great story, especially the part about the Indians bringing cookies. All right, said Amy, laughing. You can be an Indian and I'll be the Pilgrim. The Pilgrims are out of the oven. The cookies are out of the oven, so we can have our own special Thanksgiving. Cookies. Ben picked up a cookie and was all set to eat it when Amy said, Not yet, Ben. First we must give thanks. And so Ben and Amy bowed their heads and thanked God for all the good things they had. Then Ben took a large bite of cookie. You know, Amy, he said, I think cookies taste better when we remember to give thanks. Let's try to remember how important that is, said Amy. Now hurry and finish your cookie so we can go play some games. I think that's the end. The end. All right, so I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving celebration tomorrow. And you eat all delicious foods and give lots of thanks for all the wonderful things you have. I'm thankful for you all being in my class. Have a great Thanksgiving, guys.